Hey everybody, Invisiblekatana here with my review for Star Wars Visions. As you can see, had to bust out the special hat, matching, my samurai Darth Vader here. I rarely get to use this, and I was like, oh, it's the perfect blend. I just have my normal Star Wars here, get my Japanese, my Kabuto hat. I actually got this from Japan. It's one of my favorite things I bought, because look how dumb it is. How can you not want to buy this? So, Star Wars Visions was great. All in all, fantastic season. I'll be going through some of my favorites and least favorites. I won't be going through so much detail for every single one, because I believe there are 9, if I'm not mistaken, 7 or 9 of them, and they're all in all. I think it's a great season. I believe there are some of these that are really just these are just shorts in an anthology, and there are a couple of these for sure that are I'm pretty sure this has to be a pitch for a series. One of which there are a couple of them actually that I hope they do something with, and Disney's like, oh, a lot of people keep saying this one, which I'm probably going to mention the obvious ones. And who knows? I hope Disney puts some money into it and they're like, you know what? Everyone loves these 2 or 3. Make a series out of it. I really hope they do that, but we're just going to go right for it. It's great. If you haven't seen them, check them out. You don't have to watch them in any order because it is an anthology series, so you can pick and choose whichever ones you want. I would say just go in order. Why not? But they're all really good. They're about, I think the longest one is about 20, almost 20 minutes or so, or maybe just over. But they're all really good. It's just here's a cool story. Some of them definitely could fit in canon. That's definitely one thing with the series. The whole series is considered, at this point at least, non-canon. So everything that happens doesn't really matter. It's non-canon for the series, or for the overall series of Star Wars, the whole universe. It's non-canon content. But for the most part, I think they could easily fit in. I don't think there are any of these that are really, or well, I shouldn't say any. There aren't a ton of these that I think are too far beyond. There are a couple where I'm like, okay, this one might lean super heavily into a really Japanese style. So it's okay, that doesn't really fit more into the Star Wars universe. It really is this is a Japanese, it's a samurai / Star Wars film. It's really more samurai than it is Star Wars. And that, I would say, is episode 1 more than anything, with the duel, which I love. Love the style of it. It makes it look like an old Kurosawa film. So it's black and white, but it's CG. But the way they do the CG makes it look like it's almost like charcoal drawings. It looks really good. It's such a unique style, because I'm like, oh, that's really interesting that it's a black and white CG sort of drawing look to it. It's just really interesting. I love the style for that one, and there are only a couple bits of color here and there. And I will be spoiling these. I mean, it's a review of the whole season, so that should be obvious. But considering there are so many episodes, it should be obvious. But the first one I thought was great. I loved the concept of it. It was definitely the full-on. This was 100% the full-on samurai episode. They definitely have these lightsabers definitely clearly look like katanas and stuff like that. They do that quite a bit throughout the different episodes. But this was definitely the one that was this dude is 100% a Ronin samurai who's going around. He's got his droid that has a straw hat on, and it was I love that. I was just I want to figure that, because it was just cool. It was it made no real sense. It's a droid. Why does a droid ever need a hat? Which we'll talk about later in space. But why does a droid need a hat? I don't know. But they put a straw hat on a droid, and I was like, sure, that looks sweet. I don't care. It just looked cool. So love the duel. They go through, the city ends up, your village, I should say, ends up being attacked. It's set after the original series, if I'm not mistaken. I do believe they say the Empire's been destroyed and stuff like that. So all of these take place all over the place. Some are set during the original trilogy. Some are set before even the prequel trilogy. One, I believe, is set in the really far future. It kind of seems that way a little bit, but they're just they're just all over the place. You never really know. But this one is definitely all right, the Empire's been destroyed, but they kind of taken a bunch of stormtrooper armor and stuff like that, and they kind of rule the village because they have this armor, which it's Star Wars. Sometimes the armor is great, sometimes the armor is what it is, and sometimes they can shoot, as Obi-Wan said in the first movie, the expert marksmanship of a stormtrooper, and it's since when? But great first episode. And then of course you end up finding this Ronin. He's going against a Sith, and then boom, he busts out a red lightsaber, and it's okay, didn't see that one coming. I forgot he is shown in the trailer. That was kind of a spoiler, but I of course forgot that. So I was like, okay, that's interesting. Not what I was expecting. So brings in a lot of questions, and it's this one I don't think could be a series. This one I feel would work better as a movie. I think this one could be an hour and a half, and I think that would be just all you need, because he's a Ronin character. He's going through the villages, and he takes out Sith. So either he used to be a Sith, or maybe he's a Jedi, you know, one of the battles was super tough, and so he lost his lightsaber, and after he was still able to kill that Sith off, he just took their lightsaber and it was like, well, you know, what's the big deal? Like, I know I'm a good guy. It doesn't really matter. Nobody's gonna see the lightsaber anyway, unless it's coming up to the point where I got to kill somebody. So it doesn't really matter anyway. So I like the idea because it leaves you with those questions. Like, he opens up the jacket by the end, and he has all these red kyber crystals. So it's like he's clearly only killing, you know, Sith. But it does make you wonder, like, was he a former Sith that turned good? Is he just a Jedi that, you know, is it, you know, a Sith hunter? There's so many questions. It was just really interesting. So I like the way they handled that. I like the designs of all the characters. You know, like the woman that comes up, she's got the crazy umbrella deal going on, and then she takes that out to have like an official duel. They fight on a log, which is super sweet. And then when he like messed her mask up, like her hair all comes out, and it made me think of Shinobu from No More Heroes 3. I was like, oh, she's got like, you know, the big puffs of hair. Also a little bit of Afro Samurai going on. And so I love their fight, and the way that they ended I thought was really cool because he's technically losing, and like the whole concept is like her people are winning. Like the village hired mercenaries and stuff to fight back, and then of course once she came out, everything like went to hell for them. But as they're going through, the heroes are technically losing, and it's like, okay, you know, like I'm just gonna kill everybody if you don't back off, pretty much. But his droid comes in to save the day. He just pops up a little pops out a little tray that just has a billion effing tiny little rockets. He kills everybody. Like, he basically wiped out all the bad guys. And then, like, I think there are only, like, 2 of the mercenaries that are actually left alive, pretty much. And they just won. They won the day because of that. And so then they finish off their duel on the waterfall. Like, she knocks him off the waterfall. He finds, like, a little, not a sanctuary, like almost like a small monastery within the waterfall. And I thought that was super cool. And so she's like, okay, I see his lightsaber. Like, I thought it was basically like a bit of a clash. Like, he was basically standing there waiting for her. She moves the log, like, just a little bit. She doesn't do like a crazy force move where she pulls it down and like slams it through the waterfall. She just pulls it forward, water parts. And I was like, it's simple, but it was really cool because it's not something you see very often. And then she goes in for the slash, and it's like, oh, that was a statue. And then he just busts out, you know, he basically has the classic samurai move where it's like, here's weapon number 1, and here's weapon number 2, and he was like, and you got weapon number 2 right in the back, and so she's dead. And that was how it was handled. I was like, that was super cool. Gives the kid the red kyber crystal after we see, you know, his row. And then it's like, is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? Who knows what the deal really is. But love the first episode. Thought it was great. Episode 2, I think, is most people's least favorite episode, which was Tatooine Rhapsody. Kid ends up surviving Order 66. He becomes a musician. There's not much to it. Like, he gets hunted down by Boba. I thought Boba had a sweet moment where the kid like pulled out his lightsaber and he was like, do you really want to? And then when it didn't work, when he hit the button, it was just like, okay. And it's just like, all right, I'm done here. Let's roll. So I was like, oh, that's cool. But they play a song. I watched all these in English. I should mention that. I haven't had time because I was like, if I watch it in Japanese too, who knows when I'll get to actually have free time to sit down and do this review. So these are all based on the English ones. I'm definitely going to go back and watch them in Japanese. I heard that the song was for sure better in Japanese than it was in English because I was like, I don't like how this song sounds at all. You know, the ending song. But I like the way it was handled, and, you know, he goes out and it's just a microphone, and it really was, even though they had the sound effect of the lightsaber, and it was just a microphone. It's like, hey, we're going to be like the greatest band ever. You could be our first sponsor. And I was like, that's really funny, but it works. And that's just how it ends. I like the ending. I thought it was a pretty funny, cool ending to where he just left, you know, the whole Star Wars, well, I shouldn't say Star Wars life, but he left the whole Jedi Padawan life behind. And that was it. He's a musician now. And I was like, cool. This is an interesting way to end it. But yeah, I'm probably not going to watch that one again. Not horrible. It's just the one that's just like, okay, cool. And then they just keep going, and it's like, all right. I can't even remember exactly what episode 3 was, so that sucks. I'm really bad at this because I watched these a couple of days ago. But we'll just skip right to the ones I want to talk about. Like, so I won't go through the rest of them anyway because it'll just save on time. But to go to like the 2 episodes, my top 2 episodes was the Ninth Jedi and the Lapin Ocho. Those are for sure my 2 episodes. The Ninth Jedi, 100%. Had to have been a straight up pilot episode for a show because that had literally everything you would need to introduce a series that has an ensemble cast as well. It's not like, you know, some episodes like The Elder is another one where a lot of people left that episode and they were like, you know, they would like to see that one continue on. That one I felt was okay. That was definitely the one where a lot of people were like, that's like, you know, in my top 3. And I was like, I guess maybe I'd put in my top 3, probably top 4. I think the duel I would put above that one. because the Elder I thought was interesting, and I liked the concept of it, and I like that it was. I think the reason so many people love it is not just the villain; it was super cool, but I think it's because it feels so much like Star Wars. Because it starts off, it's really just a Jedi and a Padawan. And the Jedi's just cool. He's just like telling them stuff. The Padawan's, he's an interesting Jedi because his Padawan's talking him up in the beginning, like, nobody ever goes to the outer rim as much as you do, and like no one was even going to come to this planet, but you really wanted to. And I was like, okay, that makes him interesting. Like, he's a more learned Jedi. Like, he seems like the type of Jedi, kind of in that Obi-Wan realm, where it's like, it seems like he may or may not do some things that are kind of outside the realm of what Jedi are supposed to do. They don't actually show that, which I was honestly surprised, because that's the feeling that I got from his character, just based on his Padawan being like, you go to all these planets, you're like the only person that's so well versed in the Outer Rim. And I was like, that's really interesting for a Jedi who, they're supposed to be a very set thing, but he's just so well versed in the Outer Rim and going to all these different planets kind of outside the purview of a lot of people. I was like, that there's a lot of potential there. So I feel like they could do something with that, but based on what we saw, I was like, it's cool. He's a cool Jedi. His Padawan is still learning and stuff like that. And the villain obviously was super cool, and he had like the two red katana lightsabers, or wakizashi technically. And it was sweet. I definitely liked the fighting in it. It was kind of that simple Star Wars fight. Like, it was actiony, but it was also simple. It was very Rebel. There's a moment in Rebels that I won't spoil just in case you haven't seen it, but there's a moment in Rebels that it reminded me of. It's very samurai-esque. So it was simple. The way he killed the guy was super cool, because he didn't like ram the lightsaber through him. He pressed the whole hilt up to his chest and then hit the button and then killed the guy. And I was like, something about that just, it was way cooler. I don't know why, it just seemed way sweeter to me. But the episode as a whole, I was just like, it's definitely cool, but nothing about that short, like, it felt more like a short than it did the beginning of something, where it was like, that was just a random mission that they happened to go on and something cool happened. And it was interesting to watch. Like I said, it felt very Star Wars because it was a very slow-paced episode where it was a lot of just talking about the Force and battles, and especially it being prequel era. It was like, oh, the Sith haven't been around for, generations at this point, stuff like that. I feel like that's why it got a lot of people. It was definitely, I think that was like the most Star Wars one that we got out of all the shorts. I was like, this feels the most like actually watching one of the Star Wars movies. It's just a Jedi and a Padawan, and he's imparting lessons about the Force and even just life in general. Like, you will, if you're young, you're going to get stronger. If you already hit your peak, you're just going to get weaker. And that's literally just the life of the universe. And so they did a lot of cool stuff that was very Star Wars. And I was like, yeah, I see why people want this one to continue. And I think that's what episode 3 was. It was The Bride. And so those two episodes, I think, were definitely in that same realm where it felt very Star Wars. Like, now I remember The Bride for episode 3, that was about being on a planet where the people were very in tune with, they called it something else, but it was, just a different name for the Force, and how in tune they were with the planet itself. And so I was like, these are really cool. It didn't need to, jump into a lot of lightsaber duels and stuff like that, although it was super cool. And she had an amazing moment with like the weird heels that like opened up, and she did like a super fast samurai move, and she sliced the dude's arm off, and it was like, this is super cool. So, it was great. So that was a good episode too. But the Ninth Jedi and La Pinocho, those are definitely my two favorite episodes. The Ninth Jedi was 100%, like I said, that was the first episode, and La Pinocho was definitely the first episode. La Pinocho, I think, needed a little bit more time, considering a couple of things that they did. But, Ninth Jedi, 100% best episode, as far as I'm concerned. Best episode. It was like everything that needed to be explained was explained. They had a cool twist in it and all that stuff. Like, every single piece of that one worked. I love the concept of, and this was the one I mentioned, it seemed like it was in the far-flung future, because they talk about lightsabers basically just don't exist. Like, people know about them, but it was like they don't exist. And it also explains why it's called the Ninth Jedi, because I was very confused. I was like, this doesn't make sense. Like, they're trying to get other Jedi back, but it's like, she wouldn't be like the Ninth Jedi ever. And then I was like, oh, this is like, it seemed, like I said, it seemed like it was way in the future, because it seemed like it was way more than just, like, Jedi have been kind of outlawed. The way that they made it seem was like people couldn't even get lightsabers. Like, that seemed weird to me. Like, no one had a lightsaber except this one dude who could make them. I'm like, that seems like it's far beyond just, oh, this is within, kind of the original trilogy. It seemed like things had just gone real crazy, and it was like, lightsabers are just like straight up outlawed, and like no one can even find them really. It's hard to get them. So I was like, that's really interesting. And like, these are people who, whether you're Sith or Jedi, well, it's hard to just pick up, it's not like you're just going to be like, I know how to make them, and so boom, I got a kyber crystal now. They're hard to come by. But I like the way it was handled, either whether it was in the future or not, and I just misunderstood the timing of it. But I loved how they handled it, and like the concept of, I specifically made these lightsabers to be in tune with the person using them. And so like his daughter picks one out, our main character, and she's like, oh, I guess I'm not that strong in the Force. And it's like, oh, well, not necessarily. It's like she was strong in the Force. It was just her alignment wasn't 100%. Like, is she more, because if I'm not mistaken, green is for Guardians, and I can't remember what the blue, or maybe I have it reversed and like blue is a Guardian, but each color, means a different thing. And I think the green is like more of, I think if I'm not mistaken, green is for Guardian, and that's like more of a protector sort of thing. And that's where, like Qui-Gon Jinn, Yoda, stuff like that. And then blue is more of like the people who are just like, I want to do good. Like, you're more of like the outgoing type of protector. And so I thought it was cool the way that they handled that. And like, you could tell it had a green aura to it, but it was clear and technically didn't have an ending. So I thought it was sweet. And like, I already was excited for that from the trailer, just from the scene of her being on the ice and stuff. I was like, that's super cool. So this episode ended up being way better than I even anticipated. Cool little twists in there where it's like, the kid comes in, it's like, I never had a master and stuff like that. And all these people you assume are Jedi, and they're like, oh, something weird's going on. Let's wait and see what happens. And, they don't know about the whole Kyber crystal thing. So they do a cool little misdirect where the dude was going to grab the lightsaber, and the kid was like, oh, can I hold on to it? Or, can I see? Because I never actually got to see a lightsaber. And he's like, sure. And I think it makes sense that he would do that, because it's like, you don't really know 100% what's going to happen. And even then, anything bad can happen. If you out yourself as the villain at that point, you might never get the lightsabers anyway. So then you're stuck with like one lightsaber. So it still worked, I felt, in the story. So he picks it up and it's blue. And then it's like, oh, had the villain picked it up, it would have came out red. And it's like, that's very cool. I didn't think of that. But love the whole episode. I love, they have like the master, the young prodigy, then they have the young kid who's like, he's in tune with the Force, but he's never had any proper training. And then you have the one character who was basically corrupted by the darkness around him. And I was like, well, that's another great concept, which is why his lightsaber went from red to purple. And it was like, there were a million things where I was instantly like, this could be an episode, that could be an episode. Like, there were so many things in that where I was like, this is clearly like a pilot. So I hope that gets picked up, because Ninth Jedi, the action was good, the animation was great, the story, like everything in that was episode 1. And I was like, love this. So definitely my number 1 episode. La Pinocho, I think, was also fantastic. The only thing with that is just the sister becoming like pure evil. I didn't like as much, because I was like, I would have loved it if she hated her father but still didn't want to kill her sister. But then it went like full on like, oh, you gave her the thing, she's not even a part of the family. And I was like, that like, it kind of killed it at the end, because then it's like, well, now you're just, once you're 100% bad, it's not as entertaining, because it could have been like the struggle between them where she's like, I want to save my planet by going with the Empire, and Dad doesn't, so I have to fight you to, after she blinds her dad, it's like, I have to fight my sister, who I don't want to fight, in order to technically defeat my father, who I do want to fight. I think that would have been way more entertaining, but I still loved the whole thing. It was just like, oh, her going full evil where she completely hated her sister by the end. I was like, oh, that kind of sucks, because it just makes her like, it almost makes you just a typical villain. There's no nuance anymore. Like, and you could technically change that later, but it's better to just start with the nuance and then build from there. And then if she went full evil later, it would work a lot better, instead of like right off the top. It was like, okay, she left the family. I understood that. They had their argument over ideals with her dad. I was like, I understand all this. Like, it all worked, and her leaving to go to the Empire worked. And then right when she was like, she's not even a part of the family, I was like, it was just a little too fast. It was just a little too quick within the short. And I would have just preferred it if she was just kind of still stuck in between. Like, she ultimately made the choice to still stay with the Empire, but was just like, dang, it sucks. Like, I still love you, but I hate that dude. Like, I have to stop Dad, but I don't want to stop you. I think that would have been better, but I still think the way it ended was really cool. And plus, this is our first like non-humanoid character that was like the main character, and I thought that was fantastic. So I was like, that's super cool. And she had a katana and like a sai, which was sweet. I guess technically it was like a vibroblade sai. It was a vibro sai, so that was weird and cool. And I was like, this is sweet. Like, I thought the action was really good as well at the end. So I would love to see that become a series as well, if they like change it just a little bit to where she wasn't like 100% like, I hate both of you 100%, and she was just villain. Just tweak it a little bit, and I think I'd like it a little bit more. But I still definitely enjoyed it. It was definitely like, oh, this for sure is like a first episode type of thing as well. And I love the aesthetic of it with the, it's like the industrialization versus the tradition and stuff. And I was like, this is really cool. I like the way they handled it. So I enjoyed that. The whole story of like, there was a Jedi that came to the planet, years and years ago and trained one person as a Padawan. And so this blade has been, passed down through our family. And it was like, that's cool. It was just a cool way to kind of add to the ethereal nature of like a lightsaber and being like the one lightsaber within this certain area. So I thought that was actually really cool. I like the way they handled it. But once again, whole season I thought was great. The Astro Boy / Mega Man episode, it literally as soon as it started, I'm like, this dude is like, this is some Astro Boy junk. This is Astro Boy / Mega Man, because they clearly made that guy look like the Doctor from Astro Boy, and obviously Dr. Wily is based off of the Doctor from Astro Boy. So I thought that was super funny. He also got his dad killed instantaneously as soon as he went in that basement. It was like beep beep beep. Oh, we can go kill somebody on this planet. I was like, wow, that was so fast that he got him killed. It was kind of funny to me. It was effed up, but I was like, he screwed up so fast. It was amazing. Clearly, it was the first time he actually went in the basement, and I was like, dang, he didn't even think like, should I not? He jumped right in. Any Jedi? Hey, there's somebody to kill on this planet. Okay, let's kill him. It's like, that was so fast. It was funny to me, but I did enjoy the action of that. It was really interesting, but definitely the cheesy, more of a kiddie episode. And then the final episode I thought was interesting as well, with the guy having the visions, and he was living Anakin's dream at that end point, which I thought was super funny. That's all I could think of, was like, man, if Anakin saw this dude, he'd be pissed. But all in all, I definitely enjoyed the season. I would love to know your thoughts on this. If you guys would like a season 2, if there are any in here, if you have different thoughts compared to me as far as which ones you guys would like to see be a full series versus a movie. Like I said, Ninth Jedi I think should be a series. La Pinocho I think could be a series as well. The Duel I think would fit better as a movie, because when you have that sort of Ronin aesthetic, it's always better. I feel personally, you can still end with questions, and it just fits that universe. It fits that style where it's like, oh, we don't know what happens next. It's just they did that specific mission of the film, and then they just go on to do something else. That's kind of how Ronin stories go. So that I think could be a movie and doesn't have to be a series, and I think it would still work. And like I said, the Elder, I think that could work as a series, but I feel like that was just a cool chunk that they had. Other than that, it would probably, they could do some stuff with it, like I said. But all in all, I would love to know your thoughts, so please put your comments down in the comment section below. And of course, thanks for watching.